hectic developments on the NCLT front. First, we had in the SR case, New Metal, one of the bidders for SR Steel, go to the NCLT and say that the Committee of Creditors have not taken into consideration everything we want to say. So we want to get a hearing, and they were given a date of April the 4th. Meanwhile, the Committee of Creditors met and have asked for a rebid. So SR Steel now is still awaiting a decision, and we are already past about nearly 250 days out of the nearly 220 days out of the allowed 270 days. Separately, in the Binani case, one thought that Binani Cement had gone to Dalmia Bharat, but now it looks like Ultratech and Binani Industries are striking a deal outside the NCLT process and are going to the NCLT seeking a termination of the deal going to Dalmia Bharat. All told, at the moment, after about 250 days of the bankruptcy process, bankers have not even got 1 rupee from two very good assets, SR Steel and Binani Cement. So are we reaching a stage where, we may perhaps see the IBC process getting bogged down by litigation? That's the question we're asking. Joining me now is Mr. Bahram Vakil, who is the founder partner at AZB, and Mr. R.K. Bakshi, a former banker. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Well, first to come to you, Bahram, you heard the series of developments lately on both the SR front and the Binani front. Are you losing your hope in the IBC process? Is this getting too litigious?
Thanks a lot, Latha. No, not at all. I think I'm certainly keeping the faith. As you said, there are still 20 days to go. It's certainly extremely critical time. And as we've all been saying, in any new law, legal challenge is almost inevitable. My only hope is that as they have been doing, through the last 16 months, if the NCLT, NCLAT and the courts could decide expeditiously, as long as they decide fast, because inevitably these are such high stakes. As you said, the numbers are so big that it's going to go all the way.
Yes.
And as you know, there are two levels of appeals, the appellate tribunal and the Supreme Court. So as long as it moves quickly, I'm still very hopeful. I mean, frankly, let's face it, the stay has been very few and far between. You can count it on one hand. In most cases, they have said, you continue the process.
Yes.
Now there have been a few stays. As long as they move fast, it would be wonderful. A month here and there, it would still be a great victory.
Okay. No, Bahram, I'm only worried that, it's not 20 days. I think we have over 50 days now for that 270 to be crossed. Now, if perchance in SR's case, by the time the rebids come in and they are opened and they are awarded, if we get to 270, would it be a problem, or do you think that can still be managed? Will an amendment be needed to the law, or a notification or something? Or even if it is 1 or 2 days late, it can be managed?
No, I think that can be managed. I mean, if the court gives a stay, then de facto the clock has to stop. Okay. And then, that 270 is for the COC to declare which, as you say, in Binani has already happened. Okay. Then NCLT just should act expeditiously. Okay. So I think we should still remain optimistic and look at the value created. Look at the numbers everyone is talking about because of the competitive process.
Fair enough. No, I agree with you. Okay, so the clock has to, the 270-day clock is for the Committee of Creditors to give their final word, not for the entire process. Okay, that's positive.
That's right.
Okay, Mr. Bakshi, from a banker's point of view, are you getting a little worried now as we are approaching the 270-day and no money has come back to the banks?
No, Latha. In fact, this is a new process and we all accept that. And it is better than any we had so far. We had DRT, but it has turned out to be no better than civil courts. We had BIFER, which is an endless journey.
Yes.
SARFAESI created enthusiasm and did put pressure on the borrowers to repay or and afforded recovery to banks. ARC again has been lukewarm. CDR, SDR, S4A were endless. They, of course, some of them did not get the full term to run, so we can't even judge them.
Yes.
So this process has definitely generated hope. And let us first, as Bahram ji also saying, let us put the things into perspective. We are talking of these 12 accounts covering almost 25% of the humongous NPAs which banks have.
Yes.
And if the banks were through any other process trying to resolve them, we had, you could be talking of 5 years or even a decade.
Absolutely.
So, and let us also agree that it's a new process which has fundamentally altered the position of banks and the defaulting borrowers.
Yes.
The banks are in somewhat of a control, and the borrowers have to run to even protect them.
Yes.
This may even improve the behavior of others, those who have not come into NCLT going forward.
Okay.
Well, the code is new. It can definitely have gaps.
Okay.
It will have the responses to various angles which are not even thought of while creating the code. And as Bahram ji rightly said, once so much money is involved and such well-known cases are involved, and the people who will be interested in those assets are also people of means and who can access the best legal advice, they will definitely try to, the promoters will try to retain, the competitors will try to get a good asset. But one thing that has come very clear is that there is huge value in these assets. That is why
that's true. No, that's true. In both these cases, the value is actually enhanced by the bidders, or they're showing more value than even what the loan indicated. But Bahram, you know, in the Binani case, we are now faced with another challenge, that after the Committee of Creditors have awarded the asset to the highest bidder, the owner of the asset, the old defaulter, can go out and strike a side deal, as it were. This is throwing a new challenge altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, sorry, on this issue, I have to refrain from saying anything.
Okay. Okay, well, let me put the same thing to Mr. Bakshi. You know, we thought the deal was done, but now it's getting challenged, or not challenged, it's kind of getting stymied by the owner of the asset going outside the bankruptcy process. Would you keep your fingers crossed, Mr. Bakshi?
From the limited knowledge that I have of law and the IBC, I don't think there is a provision for a settlement. Once the case is introduced into NCLT, admitted in NCLT, and the process has been started and come to a stage of even evaluation of the bids and awarding. I don't know. As a layman, what I'll think, if it's a company which is in NCLT, and if the owner changes by acquiring the 98.8% shares held by the previous owner, the company still remains in NCLT only.
Yes.
I don't know how it goes out of the NCLT, but then it becomes a matter to be decided by
the tribunal.
The court,
the tribunal has to say that I cannot terminate the process. One hopes.
In IBC, there is no provision for withdrawal of the case once admitted.
We hope that that's the call the NCLT will take, that this process is sacred and I cannot terminate it. But we will have to wait and see. One assumes it will be litigated. But Bahram, is there anything else you would want from the law to ensure that the process is safe? Something like, what if the 270th day were crossed? I don't know. Do you want the law to be prepared for some eventualities?
No, I think, you know, this was debated, and personally I was very pleased that they did not extend any timelines. I think that, as I said, the process has to be worked out. If there are further learnings down the road, let's see. But as of now, the clock will stop. Hopefully, the key thing is that the judiciary continues to act expeditiously, and fingers crossed.
Okay. But just a final question, since you, a committee in which you are the member is also looking at suggestions to probably improve the act or amend it in some fashion. do you think you're going to find as many buyers for the smaller assets? So do we eventually have to allow the owner of the asset, the defaulter, to come back and bid, or is that a closed chapter?
I think as of now, it looks difficult, but everyone has been very dynamic and ready to learn.
Okay.
So down the road, let's see, it is something that a lot of bankers have spoken about, that for the smaller assets. And, that Feb 12th RBI circular, if I remember right, does have a threshold, I think 250 crores.
Okay.
So in some ways, there may be a precedent.
Okay.
But down the road, let's see. People never expected this. Okay. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. And do you think some code or something in the law is needed to prevent the reopening of bids? Even that has happened in a couple of cases, Bahram.
Yeah, that has. So again, as of now, it's left to judicial precedent. That's the way our legal system is.
Okay.
Again, I mean, if it needs it, I'm sure we will very quickly jump in.
Okay.
The ministry and IBB have been so proactive.
Okay.
As of now, we are hoping they make the right calls quickly.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. You all both sound very optimistic. On that note, let me thank both Bahram and Mr. Bakshi for joining in. The key takeaways from our guest is that it is a new process, and therefore a little bit of trying, a bit of trial and error is very good, because that will make the system robust. It's a new experience for the NCLT, for the tribunals, for the bankers, and for the resolution professionals. So a little bit of trial is okay. The other point that Bahram mentions is that the judiciary itself has amazingly kept time, and the government also stands ready to amend if needed. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We still have about 40-50 days for the SR process to run through. We still have a crucial hearing of the Binani case at the NCLT. Things may still work very well for the banking system and for the country.